All right,
I'm on point. Are we up and going?
Yeah.
All right. Anyways, we're back at Hoagie's Garage, Facebook Live, right?
Yep.
Always run through the sponsors. Took my glasses off for some reason because now I can't read my sponsors, so I'll put them back on. We picked up a new one this week. We got Rapid Graphics out of Rock Rapids. Blake, give me the last name, Bud Sheps. Yeah.
Now you got me going.
Oh, anyways, call Blake. Look up Rapid Graphics. He does graphics for everything. He's done a lot of our little signs we got up here from when I was pushing, or when I'm still pushing, but he's made up a lot of things. Made up some really cool signs you guys got us for when my dad passed away.
Yep.
They were awesome. We got Mount Tabor Cabinetry with Chris Fizzle out in Pennsylvania, Central PA. Morning Sun Marketplace with Rick Fritz out in Central PA.
Blake Shipper.
Blake Shipper. Thanks, bud. I was going with the shit. I couldn't spit it out.
Yep.
I only call him Blake when I talk to him. But anyways, this way Tony knows what he's getting into because he's listening. He's going, oh, these guys don't know nothing. We got My Rice Pass, of course. Great thing to have. Bud's got noise going in the background. S2F, start to finish. They got the Power Eye, Port City, bunch of other tracks, other great streaming service. Houston Speedway, Mother's Day is like less than a month away now. I'm going to have to get the push truck out one of these days, bud. Turn 2 Lodge down in Knoxville. Literally what it says. Got a lodge in Turn 2. Got a place you can stay. It's like a block from the track. Kaiser Aluminum Wheels. Make great wheels, hubs. They're doing brakes now, micros, midgets, sprint cars, pulling tractors, all sorts of things. Of course, Fulkins Brothers Trucking. They've been a big sponsor of ours for a long time, and without Steve, I wouldn't get to go to these races. Heartland Hardware out of Brandon, South Dakota, George, and Hayward, in Iowa. All your appliance needs. And then, of course, we don't want to forget Hero Haven for the things they do for the first responders.
Which I just saw they flew down to Texas.
They're doing a hog hunt, aren't they?
Doing a hog hunt in Texas. So that's really cool. So we'll get going with our podcast. We're keeping Tony waiting. So here we go. Hey, Hoagie's Garage. We're back going, and we have Tony LaPorta on tonight. How you doing, Tony?
Good, guys. Really appreciate you having me on, and I'm just out back grilling up dinner right now, so this works out good timing.
That's awesome. What you making?
Just some burgers on the grill, and my girlfriend's working on some fries in the living room or in the kitchen, and then some summer squash, grilling up some squash right now on the grill before we put the meat on.
Oh, so we got so much time. Then you'll have to tell us when we're done. When the food's done, you're going to let us know. We don't want the food to get cold.
Cook slow.
Yes, I will definitely let you know when it's time to eat.
Oh.
So where are we at, Tony? Where are we calling home now?
These days, Indianapolis, Indiana. Have been here for a couple of years, but have bounced all around the country in the last 10 or 15, just kind of chasing microphones and chasing race cars. So Indianapolis has been home for the last couple of years, and it's been good. So really enjoy it out here.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So we touched on it a little bit earlier just when we were visiting, but you've had a couple, 3 weeks off now, or 2 weeks off. You get one more week off. Kick back relaxing, or I mean, your partner in crime, Chase, he's been busy with all his little YouTube videos all the time with his Rodman Rundown and stuff, and I didn't know if you were keeping busy or you enjoying it better.
Yeah, it's nice hanging out at home. I still have some behind-the-scenes work that I do with High Limit when I'm not on the mic. I do stuff for them and Flow Racing as far as the video production. A lot of the, I shouldn't say a lot, some of the short event promos, we call them, that you might see on individual tracks, social media pages. I make those for the series to send to the track so that they can then post and let their followers and let their audience know, hey, High Limit coming to town June 28th, 29th, whatever, buy your tickets. So working on that, and then just, the normal prep to get ready for upcoming races, updating notes, and just kind of getting ready for a really, really busy month of May we've got coming up here at the end of the month. So a little bit of work, a little bit of relaxation. It's pretty good mix right now.
Before we get into a little bit of your background, I think that's one of the things High Limits does a good job for you guys is it's like busy, low break, busy, little break if you want. I mean, they kind of build in some things where the Outlaws just kind of go the whole time.
Yeah, and so much of the High Limit staff are from the World of Outlaws. I mean, the vast majority of us, with just a few exceptions, entrepreneurial kind of side of things, almost all of us were at the World of Outlaws at one point in time. And, I think all of us joined the Outlaws back then for the opportunity to be on the road and to go racing as often as we did. And it's awesome. I'm not going to say it's not great. If you're someone who enjoys that lifestyle of living out of a suitcase and being in one hotel tonight, another one tomorrow, and two more the next 2 nights, it really is great. And it's a fun lifestyle. But, I came, before I was at the Outlaws, I was at USAC, and people forget USAC races more than any dirt racing series.
Yeah.
The year I was with them, they had 9 or 110 nights on the schedule between midgets, crown, and sprint cars. So, but the difference with the Outlaws, of course, than USAC is they go all over the country. USAC is primarily based in the Midwest. But the schedule's great. I mean, that was one of the major draws for going over to High Limit. Was the schedule, was to be able to look at a calendar and go, wow, we get a few weekends off here and there throughout the summer. We can go camping, we can go fishing, we can go hiking, we can go visit family, we can go do other things. High Limit allows even their staff to go work other events and work other series as long as there's no conflict. So the schedule, it's no surprise, Brad, when he put the whole thing together, he knew as a racer with the Outlaws for years, he wanted some more time at home. He wanted time with his family.
Yeah.
So it's been very, very nice to have that little bit of downtime. I'm a major fan of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you're a race car guy, you can still go find other races to go run. So.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing with the Outlaws. I mean, I'm sorry with High Limit is, and people will think I'm throwing stones here, but I'm not. It's just the fact that High Limit is different than the Outlaws. They let you go do other stuff. If you don't want to sit at home as a driver or a team, and you want to go compete in other events and make money, because that's how race car drivers and teams make their money, High Limit lets you go do that, and that's different than the group we were all used to for a long time. So, and like I said, even when I came on, when I got hired, they said, hey, if you have work opportunities and you can go hold a microphone or a video camera or anything for anybody else, as long as you aren't missing our races, go do it. Go make the money. Go support yourself. So that part of it's been really, really nice.
Yeah, absolutely.
So let's just jump back here a little bit then with your story. What got you involved in racing? Did it start young for you? I mean, did your dad do racing or anything, or what got you involved in racing?
Because I'll be honest, you look more like a football player.
Yeah. A lot of people tell me that, and I did play football. I started everything, no matter what it is. I started everything in my life way later than I should have. I didn't start playing football till I was a junior in high school, and racing was the same way. I wasn't born into it. Nobody in my family was a part of it. It's honestly kind of a funny story. It was my grandmother, my mom's mom, retired and moved out of Colorado, and that's where we're from, and went down to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, and in her retirement just got a part-time job working the gift shop in one of those old NASCAR cafes. I don't know. Do you guys know what the NASCAR cafe was?
I've heard of it, but I am not familiar with it anymore.
So it was just your typical American, diner, but it was all just done up to
NASCAR memorabilia type stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The front of the house was all race cars and fuel cans hanging off the walls, and you could go sit down and order the checkered flag chicken tenders and the Daytona burger and all that stuff.
Yep.
And in the back of the restaurants, they had them in Daytona Beach, Nashville, Orlando, and one in Myrtle Beach. And my grandma got a job in the gift shop, and this was like 2002, 2003. So NASCAR's at its absolute height in popularity, right? I mean,
Yep.
It's the biggest it ever was, and so the gift shop was jammed to the gills with stuff. I mean, every driver had 10 hats you could pick, and 6 die casts, and 15 shirts, and so as grandmothers do, I just started getting gifts in the mail, and all of a sudden these orange number 20 race cars start showing up to my parents' house in Greeley, Colorado, and the guy who drives it's got the same name as me.
Yeah.
And just, by receiving those gifts and having a close relationship with my grandmother, calling it. She'd call us on the weekends. Oh, you got the race on? We're all sitting down here watching. Turn on Fox. Turn on NBC. So it grew out of just a really, really close relationship I had with her, and got more and more interested in it. And I'm in like starting out probably end of elementary school, middle school, and just get more and more interested in the sport, and really just kind of fall in love with it and go, man, that's what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna do that one day. And all through a very close relationship with my grandmother, and her part-time retirement job down at the NASCAR Cafe. So yeah, very, very ass backwards how I got into the sport, and my love for it. So yeah, that's the broad brushstrokes of how I got just into racing.
That is good. I'm pretty sure that's the first time I've ever had anybody say that grandma is the one.
Yeah.
I've had a few grandpas, got us involved in it, but that's the first grandma. But
yeah, and like my great grandparents, her parents were alive for a lot of my childhood, and I'm lucky for that. And my great grandfather, he was interested in motorsports, but it's he never competed. He owned a radiator shop in Denver, Colorado, and he sponsored guys that raced all the time.
Okay.
And but he never competed. He never owned. He never worked on them. He just was a fan of it, like so many guys are. And so yeah, when I started coming home and wanted to put on the NASCAR race, and telling my dad to turn off Sunday NFL to put on the NASCAR race, everyone was kind of like, where'd this come from? But yeah, I absolutely fell in love with it as a kid, and yeah, there was relatability with Tony Stewart, and I fell head over heels for him, and he was the guy my whole childhood. If I was talking about something, it was probably Tony Stewart. So it was kind of a unique way to get into it, but I've been hooked since 4th or 5th grade, and haven't cared about anything else since.
And talking about Tony, what was it? He just won his first NHR event at Vegas, and
Yep.
I think somebody said it in some other show I listened to, which is too many of them. I think he's the only person to win on every track at the Vegas Motorplex.
Yeah, it's actually funny. I was just talking with my girlfriend about that stat, because I'm friends with the PR manager for his drag racing team. Actually, through my friendship with her, I got to work for Tony a couple times in the last 2 years, because when I was at the Outlaws, I did video production, and they hired me to come down to Gainesville last spring for his first ever Top Fuel event, and I made a behind-the-scenes weekend in the life with Tony Stewart video for his personal YouTube channel. And through her, I got that opportunity, but I saw the post. She's the one who made that, and I thought it was awesome. It was such a cool thing to highlight, and it just proved his versatility, right? I mean, Silver Crown, midget, sprint car, winged sprint car, top alcohol, top fuel, stock car, Indy car. He's won in everything that's ever raced there at Vegas, and I mean, the guy's a badass.
Yeah, I thought it was a really cool thing when you can win on all the different tracks.
So I just gotta ask, you said you did a week kind of with Tony Stewart. That kind of had to be a blast for you, didn't it? Or was it a little awkward, or not at all?
No, and what was crazy about it was that was actually not even the first thing I did with him. Was when they announced at PRI in December of 23 that Leah was going to step out of the car and he was going to take over because they were trying to start a family. I was brought in to make that video where we did a day in the life of Tony and Leah at PRI, and I followed them around, and they were mic'd up, and I edited that video and gave it to them to post to his and her personal YouTube. So Gainesville wasn't even the first time I worked with them, but it was wild. I mean, just a really cool story about that is, I don't know, you guys are familiar with how an NHRA weekend works, I presume?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I wasn't. I mean, I'm a decent drag racing fan, but I don't know all the ins and outs of it. And we had it all planned out. He would ride in the tow vehicle that pulls the car up to the staging lanes, and we had it mapped out where they truly wanted a behind-the-scenes weekend with him. So that was the video, was behind the scenes. So we had it mapped out where, okay, the gear, the guy that does the blowers or whatever, he was going to drive the tow vehicle. Tony was going to sit in the right front passenger seat with the shotgun, and then I would jump in the left rear passenger seat, so directly behind the driver, and that would allow me to have a shot of him with my camera at all times, and he was wearing a microphone. And so we jumped in the tow vehicle to pull the car up for his first qualifying pass on Friday, and the mechanic that drove the car up to the staging, he jumps out and he's with the rest of the crew back by the car, and I look around and all of a sudden I realize it's literally just me and Tony Stewart sitting in this tow vehicle, and he's in his fire suit, he's holding his helmet, and he's getting ready to make his first ever run down the track in competition in a top fuel dragster. And that alone was crazy to just be like, oh my God, what am I doing here? But then he's just like that's the thing people forget. These guys are just normal people, right? They just are dudes who drive race cars really, really well.
Yeah.
And just like every other person, he's sitting there and he's nervous. And what does everybody do when they're nervous? They start talking. So he's just sitting there and he just starts talking to me. And he's just telling me, he's like, he's telling me about everything he's thinking, and he's telling me about everything he's been told, and the differences between how him and Lee go up the stage. And I thankfully had the wherewithal to turn my camera on and hit record. but so much of that conversation didn't make the video, and I got to just sit there. And because I was the only other living thing in that car, he had to talk to someone.
Yeah.
And he was just sitting there telling me about I've been told to do this, and I hope, I got to remember to do that, and if it does this, I'm going to, and then, he asked me, he's like, you got to be able to hear my heart pounding through that microphone I'm wearing. And he was so nervous, but he was just so real about it all too. And that was definitely a moment that I'll never forget, because it was like, man, this is the dude I idolized and I wanted to be when I grew up, and I based so much of even my personal life around the things that he did and the way that he acted. And to be sitting there in that car with him at that moment, I was like, this isn't real. So, no nerves. It was, if anything, you get a little gun shy as a guy with a camera holding the microphone at him, because you know his reputation and you know that he doesn't like wasting time with reporters and the media and asking, or getting asked all these stupid questions. I just tried to be respectful of his time, but he was more than gracious. He was more than fair. He was over generous with his time. He knew that he needed to put the clip-on microphone on every time he got out of the car, so he'd stop what he was doing, find me, get the microphone on, then go about his business. I mean, he was an absolute dream to work with. So it was an incredible experience. I can absolutely tell you that.
No, I can't imagine.
Yeah,
that had to have been a blast. I just wanted to mention Patrick McCarty commented, and he said it was really cool to eat a burger next to a real NASCAR, sitting in them different restaurants or whatever.
Back there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Going back a little bit. You got into a story. I couldn't interrupt that story. That was a great story.
So, how did being a fan from your grandma turn into being an announcer?
When I found out, when I found out at the ripe old age of 14 that I was destined to be a NASCAR driver, because that's what I just thought I was destined to be. You realize, okay, well, you learn about all these guys, and you learn about, I study and memorize everything about Tony as soon as I figure out who he is, and you realize, okay, all these guys got their start in go-karting. Well, okay, that means I got to start go-karting. I better start quick, because all these guys were already out of go-karts by the time they're my age, so I better get going. If I'm going to be racing with them in 10 years, like my plan was. So, just look up in Colorado, find out where there's a go-kart track. There's not a lot, because Colorado is not exactly a motorsport, sanctuary. So, do the research, find the places, get involved, basically guilt / beg / torment my parents into buying me the cheapest and most, ineffective piece of racing equipment we could afford, and started competing, started going out and racing pavement road course sprint karts in Colorado, and wasn't any good, was terrible. I mean, was not meant to be in that line of work. Pretty quick I found out, and combination of just Dad had no mechanical background, I didn't know what I was doing, so we have no starting point to speak of. We're behind the 8 ball, and then bad equipment, didn't spend a lot of money on it because neither one of us knew what we were doing. Parents couldn't justify dropping a bunch of cash on it. And as you guys mentioned earlier, I looked more like a football player than a racer. I was 15 years old and coming in at 210 pounds on the scale. So, was not built to be a race car driver. Was oversized for my class. Was racing against the 40-year-old guys. They made an exception because I couldn't compete against the kids my age because they were so much smaller than me. So at one of those events, when I should have been competing but wasn't, probably because my grades were so bad, my dad put my card up on blocks and said, "You're not racing until you get these F's to at least B's." Was just hanging out at a race up in northern Colorado at a track called IMI Motorsports, and was just standing there all day doing what I'm doing with you guys, just jacking my jaw, running my mouth 100 miles an hour. And the race director was a guy that I knew. He had a kid not much older than me who raced, and the dad's name was Kurt, and he helped me a lot and was always answering my stupid questions and helping me out. And it's towards the end of the race day, and I'm just standing there next to him, blah, 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 just going a million miles an hour. And he takes the microphone that he was using to just call up the next race to the grid. He takes the microphone and says, "Hey, you won't shut up. This is your class on track that you would normally race in. You know all these guys. How about you leave me the hell alone and go upstairs to the booth and announce this race? Call it like you're on TV." And it was just over the PA to the other racers and the families there at the track. And they didn't have an announcer, and I just went up there and had never done anything with a microphone in my life, didn't know how to turn it on, how to turn it off, nothing. And went up there, and because I knew the guys that were out there on track because I raced against them, talked through a 20-lap feature, talked about it, and then went down and handled the trophy presentations. And they said, "Hey, you weren't the worst person to ever do that." So the next year, that was the last race of the season that year. The next season, a national series opened up a regional tour in Colorado and Utah, and they needed someone to do the announcing. So for the handsome price of $0 a weekend, I became the regional announcer at 17 years old, and from then it just kept going, and I got more opportunities, and soon it grew from the mountain region to going out to California, and then a competing national tour offered me an opportunity, and that was 2014, 2015, and it hasn't stopped since then. So it was just kind of a right place, right time kind of moment like that.
If somebody wanted to get rid of you, here, kid, go talk on this microphone, leave me alone. And it blossomed into a great career for you.
That's truly what it was. I clearly don't have a problem filling time with speech. And the guy that was down there running the race was like, "God, you need to leave me the hell alone. How about you go announce this race you're supposed to be in?" And I did. And
That's awesome.
It was just bearable enough that people were okay with it. And just like anybody who does something for the first time, I was certainly not a pro, but when you're one of the only people in the area that does it, you get lots of opportunities to get better. And it started as a part-time deal with the go-kart series I should have raced in, and within 6 or 7 years, I was hooked up with IndyCar's junior series, the Road to Indy. Then IMSA Sports Car Racing found me at one of those events, and Mazda offered me their series announcer for their MX-5 Coupe division. And 4 or 5 years after I first picked up a mic, I was on 100 airplanes a year going to events all around the world. So
wow. I hope getting paid better than $0.
I'll never forget the first time a series reached out to me and asked, would I come announce for them. I didn't know what to ask for my rate of pay, so I reached out to that same guy Kurt, who was doing the go-kart race directing, and it was actually a guy who owned a Legends car series in southern Colorado, and he brought his Legends car to be the pace car for one of the go-kart events I was doing, and he heard me announce it, and he said, I'd really like to have you come do my events. What's it going to cost me? Because he didn't know that I was on my 5th or 6th weekend of doing it. He thought I was a professional
by then. He thought you were a professional.
what would it cost for you to come down and do my events? And I remember going, let me get back to you. And I called that guy first, who these days is more like a dad to me than anything. And back then, because I was able to call him and go, hey, that guy from the Legends Car Series down at Pikes Peak International Raceway, he wants me to come announce his races for money. What do I ask him? And Kurt was, had the answer already queued up, and he said, you know what? Tell him you'll do it for $150 a night, and because it was like a Saturday night short track thing, and he said, tell him you'll do it for $150, and he needs to feed you. Well, I didn't know what that meant, so I called this guy Larry Griffith back, the promoter of the short track series, and I said, Larry, I'll do it for $150 a day, and you need to feed me. And I said it probably just like that. Well, this is just some simple dude from South Carolina who's up in Colorado trying to get a short track region to start up, and he again, I don't know if he thought I was like some big deal or I really knew what I was doing. I've always looked older than I am, so we're having this conversation and I'm like 16 or 17, and he probably thinks I'm a 20-something-year-old dude, and I go, you'll have to feed me, and he kind of catches his breath and goes, well, of course, yeah, of course, absolutely, we'll feed you. All the staff that work the race get a free meal from the local concessions truck, but I can send my wife out to pick you up a steak or sandwiches or whatever it is you need. We'll take care of you, sir. And I swallowed hard. I go, oh no, like a burger from the Roach Coach will be great. I just wanted to make sure I get dinner. And he goes, oh yeah, we'll definitely take care of you. I can do 150 and a meal at the track, no problem. So yeah, that was the first paying gig, and thankfully the number's gone up a little bit since then.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great story. By the way, in case people don't know, we have Tony and LaPorta on, and we don't want to keep him too much longer because we know he's grilling. But
have you turned the meat on yet? We gotta speed up.
What?
No, just put the burgers on, so I got a little bit more time.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Going to what you do now and being an infield announcer and some of the other stuff, but what is it like being with the sprint car drivers and getting to know them? I mean, I'm sure you're first name basis with a lot of those guys, especially the high limit guys. It has to be a little bit different than some of those other series that you've done.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're dead on the money there, right? And so just for context, the Junior IndyCar Series I talked to you about, the Road to Indy, it's a great program, and I'm not trying to disparage it, but I'm just going to be honest about it, right? It's a pay-to-play, which, I mean, we all know that's what a lot of racing is becoming these days. But it's a pay-to-play Junior IndyCar deal, right? And they've got 3 steps on the ladder, and we had kids when I was there, and I haven't kept up with the series really well, but you have kids there that are as young as 14, 15. And a season in one of those cars, they have to, whether it's sponsorship or a rich uncle or mom and dad or selling newspapers, they have to bring a check. When I was involved in it 4 or 5 years ago, it was roughly, for that bottom level, to do a whole season, I think it was around like 70 to 80 grand for one season. And that was before a scratch on the car. If you wrecked it, you paid for it, right? There was crash damage. Every kid had crash damage on their bill. And those kids were rich kids. I mean, let's just call it like it is, right?
Yeah.
Most of them were wealthy families or had very wealthy connections that allowed them the opportunity to go do that. I'm not saying that's wrong. It's a free market.
It's just the way it is.
Country, and if you got the money to play, you should go play. I'm all for it. But you come from that where you got 14, 15, 16-year-olds who pop out of the car, take off their helmet, and then go sit in the hauler till the next session, and they're flying in and out with their mom and dad. And it's a very different world from what we deal with now, which is working class people. Is Brad Sweet building his sprint car with his bare hands? No, of course not. But a lot of the drivers in the field are working on their cars.
They all know how to.
Yeah, exactly. They might not be at this level, but I promise you, when Brad started and he moved to Indiana to race USAC, he was working on his cars.
Yep.
And so it's a working class type of racing, and it's working class people, which I very much enjoy, because that's my, my dad owned a commercial cleaning business my whole life. He was a janitor. He owned his own business, but he was a janitor. And
Yep.
I've been raised by working people, and I prefer to hang out with working people. And it's just a much more authentic type of racing. And I always tell people, sprint car racing and dirt track racing is the last real form of romantic racing I think there is. People can go do it, and if they're good at it, they can make money, and if they're really good at it, they can live on it.
Yep.
There are not many IndyCar drivers today living on their driving alone. It's just a fact of life. The economics are not there in the sport. Sponsors are not paying what they used to. It means teams can't pay the drivers what they used to, and a lot of those guys are doing other things to make their money. And it's that way across the board. So to go to a sprint car race and have the front gate, the grandstand for people sitting in the bleachers, for them to pay enough money to put $2 grand, $5 grand, $8 grand, $10 grand into a winner's pocket every night. That's the cool thing about this sport, is it's working class guys and girls out there competing. That's what I like about it.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Would have never thought about that with an Indy car either, but it's interesting to get your perspective on all that. So
I mean, there was a joke for a long time that Mario Andretti, who still shows up to a lot of those races and drives the two-seater before the actual race, he takes a celebrity around in the two-seater. There was a joke in the IndyCar paddock when I was involved in the sport, that Mario Andretti was still the highest paid driver in the sport in 2018. And that was because Firestone was paying him to come drive that two-seater.
Sure.
Now, that's obviously not true, but, it's not like it was in NASCAR or IndyCar anymore, like it was in the 90s and the 2000s, where, the Cup drivers were making millions and millions of dollars a year. There's a very small list of them that are making that kind of money these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you obviously sounds like you're enjoying what you're doing, and you're really good at it, by the way. You got a great voice for it. We love to listen to you and Chase argue with each other. Does Chase have to be nervous that you're going to take his position or anything? Or, do you want to move up? Or are you happy doing the pit part? Or what do we got going on?
I was USAC play-by-play announcer, so I did what Chase does now.
Yep.
I did that for USAC in 2021, and I loved it. And pretty much my whole career had been booth, play-by-play. Started doing play-by-play in the go-karting. When I first started, I did play-by-play for Mazda. And absolutely. I prefer that very much, because you're the driver, you're the quarterback, you're the head dude when you're up there in the booth. It's what I really enjoy. That's what I reached out for to do at High Limit. Was I wanted to be the play-by-play guy. I reached out to Brad and Kyle and Flo, and I said, I have a desire to get back to calling racing, and I want to do it with you guys. But I also said, I'll take any job, whether that's infield reporter, in the booth. I just want to hold a microphone. So they made a great decision with Chase. Does he do everything the way that I would do it, or not the way I think?
Everybody does their own thing.
But finding anybody who does something the way everybody thinks it should be done, it's not going to happen.
No.
Yeah.
So Chase does a really good job. It's fun to do it with him. And we've both had discussions where we think that, because remember, he was the pit reporter for the Outlaws.
Yep.
And I was the play-by-play guy at USAC when he was doing that. And we both had discussions where we have to be kind of brutally honest with ourselves. And we both kind of think that the other one does a better job at the other one's job. It's a hard pill to swallow, but I kind of believe that Chase does a better job in the booth than I did. And he thinks that I do a bit of a better job down in the pits than he ever did. So, yeah, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I don't want an opportunity in the booth. Of course I do. But, right now it's a really good pairing, and it works really well the way we've got it. So yeah, it's a good deal all the way around, I think.
Yeah, and I think if you were only a pit guy and you only got to talk to guys after they crashed, that would be one thing. But you get, a lot of airtime with the spinning of the wheel and, a lot of different things.
Race
and I just think, you do an amazing job. So
For what it's
thank
worth, from two Yahoos in Iowa, you do a great job, and the two of you work really well together. It seems like you got really good chemistry when you're watching the show.
It's kind of like us. We give
Yeah,
each other a lot of shit, and it seems like you guys give each other a lot of that. And I think that's what makes
What makes it fun for the people
makes
watching.
it fun for everybody. So
Yeah, that's the thing. I've always just believed that you can, what's the old saying? You can attract more flies with honey than shit.
Yep.
And everybody wants to laugh, right? Everybody wants to enjoy what they're consuming. And it's funny because despite all of what I'm telling you, we never once sat down, him and I, and said, hey, we need to have really good banter. We need to pick on each other. And hey, when you say this, I'm going to say that. And then if I do this, you go here and I'll go there. We just turned on the mics at Tampa back in the spring of last year, and it just came out the way that it did.
yeah,
And the other thing is, too, Chase and I, we worked for 2 years together at the Outlaws, but we didn't really spend time with each other. He was employed by Dirt Vision as a contractor. He traveled in the Dirt Vision production truck. I was employed by World Racing Group as their video guy, so I traveled in a different vehicle. And Chase and I did not. I can probably count on maybe 2 hands the amount of nights away from the track over those 2 years that we were both there that we quote unquote hung out.
Sure.
So we didn't have like a bunch of history and a bunch of time together when we both showed up at High Limit. We're just similarly aged guys who share a few interests, and when we got talking on a mic over the air, it came out funny. So we really lucked out. Kyle and Brad will tell you today, they didn't know what to expect. And Brad was on another podcast, and he said, we think the thing we've lucked out with the most, and the thing we just happened to, kind of hit the lottery on, as far as it not going poorly, was our broadcast team. He said, he goes, we didn't know how Chase and Tony were going to do in their respective roles. We didn't know how they were going to work with each other. But he told Jeremy Elliott, he said, it's worked out really, really well, and that's cool to hear. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I always live by the motto: if I can't dazzle them with brilliance, then I baffle them with bullshit. So, however you want to take it,
Hey,
Yeah, that's very accurate.
last question before we get to our rapid fire is, what are you most looking forward to for the High Limit for the rest of the year? What's your go-to thing that you're most looking forward to? Whether it's a race, someplace that has the best food, or what are you looking forward to the most?
Man, that's really tough because, you go back and you look at last year, we had a lot of really good races, and a lot of those events are still on the schedule. I'm biased, I live here in Indiana, and it's during the month of May. We'll go to Kokomo in a few weeks, and that's super fun because friends show up to that race. I might have family even come to that race. Doug Bowles usually shows up from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I'm grateful to have a good relationship with him, and that's just a fun night. Kyle usually races. Kokomo's an hour, less than that, from where I live. So Kokomo's always super fun. Going back to the Pacific Northwest in the fall, going up to Skagit. We get an extra day up there now because Elma is off the schedule, so we'll go straight from Southern Oregon up to Skagit. That's always really, really nice. Lawrenceburg Speedway, baby, they've got frozen cheesecake on a stick. So what's not to like about that?
Being you mentioned Skagit, they got that long pull again from Skagit to Port Royal or to Williams Grove or something again this year?
Yep, they do. We'll get down at Skagit on Saturday, Labor Day weekend, and then just the week before Labor Day weekend, and then Thursday we're on track for the Tuscarora 50 over in central Pennsylvania. So it's a hell of a haul. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Make sure you give Blake, another fellow Iowa guy, a bad time when you're out there. But we'll hit you up with our rapid fire
I want you
questions
to
here.
burn your burgers.
What's your favorite kind of ice cream?
Man, anything with peanut butter in it. I'm usually a chocolate and a peanut butter guy. Almost any time I can choose.
That works, I guess, if you like peanut butter.
Absolutely.
I don't think I've ate much peanut butter ice cream.
Yeah, I love it.
But cat or dog person?
Dog every day. Can't stand cats.
Do you have any hobbies other than racing or announcing?
I drink way too much bourbon. I'm from Colorado, and I had friends that did it, and I never got into it. I lived in Colorado most of my life, and then I moved to Oregon, and I didn't get into it until I moved to Indiana. But the thing that most people who know me will tell you that I'm infamous for, and throw all my money away on, and spend way too much time doing and thinking and daydreaming about, is fly fishing. I love fly fishing. If I could do it every day of the year, I would.
That's awesome.
We've done a lot of fishing, but I've never fly fished yet.
Yeah. What's the most expensive bourbon you ever bought?
That I've ever bought. What's funny is if you know bourbon, you know that trying to find a bottle of Blanton's at a secondhand, like a liquor store,
Yep.
is pretty risky, because they'll mark that stuff up $200, $300 sometimes. But we went and did a tour of Buffalo Trace a couple of years ago, and they had bottles of Blanton's available for their direct price, like the cost it is for them to make it. And I bought a bottle of Blanton's for $70.
Oh.
And I still haven't opened it, and that was 2 years ago.
Saving it for a special moment.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, I bought it before High Limit ever even happened, and surviving my first year with them and it going so well, I thought it was going to be my special occasion. But we've just been so busy, I haven't had time to sit down and open it, because once High Limit ended last year, it was into going to Martinsville, Virginia to call Mazdas out there, and then to Vegas the following weekend for some shifter parting, and then the next thing you know, we're on a flight to Australia, and then you come home and it's Tulsa Shootout, straight to Chili Bowl, and then I went in and filled in on the mic at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. So that bottle's been collecting dust. I need to get around to it here pretty soon.
Maybe you better save it for a special moment with the girlfriend. Then get your brownie points that way.
Yeah, that's probably not a bad idea. She doesn't like bourbon.
Well, she don't have to drink it with you. You just open it on a special day.
Yeah, she likes watching me drink it. I think that's enough.
How about a favorite movie?
Ooh, man, you guys told me before we started that would be one. I was kind of panicking, because I'm a movie buff, and I try to watch. I'll watch anything that the in-flight entertainment has. Like, I've watched almost everything on Delta. I've watched almost everything on Southwest. I'm just trying to think.
Do you have a go-to actor then? Your movie actor that you like better?
No, not really.
Okay.
Like with actors, I always fall into the problem of I saw him in this, so that's what they're going to be in every movie.
Oh, sure.
I love baseball, so anything with baseball. I've watched Moneyball a bunch of times. It's a documentary. I don't know if you count it as a movie, but it's called Neat, and it's all about the history of bourbon, because I'm an old man. So yeah, I don't know. The movie one's tough. I'll have to think about that one and get back to you, because I don't have a great answer for it.
I just watched Bull Durham the other night. As long as you're talking baseball movies.
I was just asking my girlfriend actually if she's watched that, and she said no. So I said we're gonna have to fix that.
Better pull that up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good one too.
Are you a snow or rain guy?
Snow or rain?
Yeah. Which one do you like better?
I guess rain, because you don't have to shovel it.
Yep.
We get the answer sometimes they prefer snow, because then it usually ain't during race season.
Yeah, or snowbills. So.
I guess so, because rain keeps you off track. But I lived in Oregon for 2 years, and it rained up there enough for me for the rest of my life.
Yep. I hear you.
But I'm also from Colorado, where it snows a shit ton. So
It always melts quickly in Colorado.
yeah, if the sun comes out, whereas like here in Indiana, it'll just stay dark for a whole month and that snow doesn't go anywhere.
If you were going to be stranded on an island, what album or what type of music would you have to have along to listen to?
Something probably by either the Turnpike Troubadours or a guy named Cody Jinks. They're I guess what you would call red dirt country. Cody Jinks is from Texas, and the Turnpike Troubadours are from Oklahoma, and they're like Texas country, red dirt country is what you call it. So that's pretty much the only thing I listen to is Texas country music.
That's awesome. Do you have a favorite place to go out to eat?
Ooh boy, man, all we do is go out to eat, because when you're on the road. You're never making meals.
Well, how about at home? Where's your go-to place with the girlfriend?
Where's my go-to place when we're at home to go out to eat? There's actually a winged sprint car bar here in Brownsburg, Indiana called Frickers. And they've got a Donnie Schatz top wing hanging off the ceiling, a Jason Myers top wing, a bunch of IndyCar stuff on the wall. They're really good. Or, the easy answer is when we're on the road, Chase and Brian and Anthony and I will travel together. And if we see a Chili's, we'll usually hang a U-turn on the interstate to get to one of those.
There you go.
But yeah, anywhere with good wings, I'll tell you. That's my vice.
That's
Anywhere
your go-to?
with fried chicken.
How about a favorite holiday?
Favorite holiday? That's a good one. Christmas because you're with family and all that. But
yep.
Honestly, a couple of years ago when I was living in Oregon, I just fell in love. The 4th of July is huge in that part of the state because they have a bunch of rodeos, and it's the week, like the last week of June into the first week of July is known as Cowboy Christmas, and that's where there's more PRCA rodeos going on around the country because it's fair season, and there's more PRCA rodeos going on than any other time of the year, and that's where all those guys can make a bunch of money.
Yep.
And it's just a good time if you're a rodeo fan, which I am. So yeah, I'd say 4th of July, summer. Most people have it off. You get to hang out, grill, eat a bunch of good food. I'd say 4th of July.
Them just a little road. Them bronc riders and bull riders. They're a special breed of person.
Yeah.
Because
They sure are.
that's abusing yourself.
I even announced rodeo when I was in college. So I've done a little bit of that sport as well.
Oh, jeez. We asked this because we usually talk to race car drivers, but how many speeding tickets do you have?
Ooh, speeding tickets. Not many, but the ones I have are big ones.
Well, then that leads to this next question.
What's the fastest you've ever driven or ridden with somebody in a car going down the highway?
Oh man, down the highway. Nothing crazy. You get on some of those drives like out west, like when we were heading out to Vegas for the first high limit race. You get on some of those stretches of road out in like Utah where there's just nothing, and you'd see a cop because you'd see anything out there. We've gotten a few rental vans, probably up over 102, 103 a couple times, and then you start to feel the front wheels shaking. But my first speeding ticket, I was doing 71 in a 45.
Ooh.
And in Colorado, they operate on a point system, and you get 2 points when you get your license, 2 more after like 2 years of having a clean record, and you add up to like 12 by the time you're 21. And then they take points when you get an infraction. That first ticket, I was 17 years old, and they wrote it for 12 points.
Oh!
Yeah, so if a couple of relationships and friendships with people in the local county government wouldn't have come into play, I could have been looking at no driver's license from 17 to 21.
You would have been riding your pedal bike again.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
Well, we covered what's your favorite drink, so we'll just end it with this. If you had all the money in the world, and is there a car, a pickup, anything you've always dreamed of owning?
It's funny, and I hear this a lot actually from other racers. I love cars. I don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that, but I'm not like a massive car guy. I don't have a picture of a BMW taped to my wall that I've wanted since I was 5 or something. I don't really know, man. Muscle cars are badass. I like American muscle, but for the stuff I do and the crap I'm into, honestly, just a nice, big, roomy pickup truck. Probably like a big F-250 or a Chevy 2500 or something, just something big and can pull something. That's honestly probably what I would buy if I had all the money in the world.
Then get the High Country edition or the King Ranch edition.
Well, if he has all the money, he's gonna get every
you
option.
gotta get her decked out too.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I'm right there with you. That's the first thing I'd buy is a nice pickup.
When I lived in Oregon, I lived with a guy who owned a racetrack up there that him and his family let me stay with them and work for them while I was traveling all around, and he had an F-350 King Ranch, and I was just like, damn, every single thing in the interior of this truck is leather.
Yep.
The seats were leather, the armrests were leather, the gear shift was leather, the speedometer was leather, the mirror was leather, That was a really nice vehicle. So I think about that King Ranch edition pretty often.
I knew a gentleman, one more King Ranch story. He had a King Ranch, but it had 4 captain's chairs in it. It didn't have the bench in the back.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I thought that you know, you can only haul 4 people, but 4 people are riding really comfortably.
Yeah, exactly. They're all going to have their own space. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Tony, thanks so much for being on. We would love to have the day again when you're up at Huset, so we can talk to you up there. But that's another story for down the road, and I'm sure
I gotta say hi to him in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, you do shortly. So, but thanks so much for being on our show, Tony.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, guys. It was good talking to you.
And hopefully we didn't burn the burgers. That's the main thing.
No, they're off and getting ready to be enjoyed right now. So
All right.
Perfect timing then. We did good.
We'll see ya.
thanks, guys.
See you, Tony.
Bye. Bye.
Is he still on?